Okay, I'm going to turn to something I mentioned at the start of the show. This is a video that was put out by the website is called Gateway Pundit, and I will tell you this: one of those websites, there is like a pecking order people have in their heads about websites, and of course, the left wing of America is constantly telling you that you can learn everything you need to know by going to the New York Times, the Washington Post, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, and they might throw in there Politico and other left-wing websites. All of those websites and news outlets are, to varying degrees, simply propaganda outfits. They are no longer presenting news. They are contorting news to push the American mindset, to manipulate the American people into accepting the left-wing worldview. There are many, many websites that are great out there. When Gateway Pundit first got started, as any new outlet when it gets started, there were, of course, a lot of people saying, oh, who are they? Who are they to speak? Who are they to have opinions? And it happens with many. I remember when Breitbart first came around, many, even people, conservatives or Republicans, were saying, well, you can't go to Breitbart. I mean, that's just kind of out there. But you can use your brilliance, your God-given intelligence, every one of you, use your God-given intelligence in reading things. I'm getting around to saying Gateway Pundit was one which I'm sure leftists will still say, oh, you can't listen to them. They do fabulous work. They break stories that Vox, Politico, ABC, NBC, etc., the alphabet soup media, New York Times, Washington Post, Gateway Pundit, Breitbart, other conservative websites break stories that the media would rather you didn't see. Gateway Pundit put out a great video describing a tactic, and I want to play it for you. Matt, I'll be sure to leave my microphone on because there is no voice on this, so I might be talking a little bit, but they called it the drop and roll tactic. And what they're describing is the way this election fraud occurred in this 2020 presidential election by just showing you numbers and showing the pattern that they start in one state and they show you state after state after state. What they're showing you is an algorithm at work. So if we have this, please play the drop and roll fraud tape. And this is, again, their term, drop and roll. Here's how it works. The drop. They steal the Trump landslide and dump a massive number of unexplained votes. And then the roll, they fix the remaining vote counts in exact proportions to keep the lead. This is huge. So here they're going to tell you how it happened in Georgia. Trump way ahead, up by as much as 57% to Biden's 42%. The drop, they dump unexplained ballots for Biden, given to Biden for hours until Biden takes the lead. They just dump unexplained ballots in the roll. For the next 53 batches of votes counted, every single vote batch had exactly 50.05 to 49.95 victory margin for Biden. Every single batch of votes for the next 53 batches. These ratios are, as they point out, impossible. Every single batch of votes they add kept the same precise ratio. Same thing in Michigan. President Trump leading for hours by 55% to 43%. The drop at 6:30 a.m., this is the day after the election, 141,000 votes dumped for Biden. Then the roll, almost every batch after that 9:15 batch had exactly a 50% Biden to 49% Trump exact ratio. Same in Virginia. This is how an algorithm works, my friends. President Trump leads for hours by 52 to 46. The drop of votes, drop is referring to ballots dropped into the ballot box. 308,000 votes dumped for Biden in the middle of the night. The roll ratios are now set for remaining batches to be exactly 50% to Biden, 49% for Trump. Exact ratio the rest of the time. This is what this whole idea is. When I talked to you, we had Russ Rams on the show talking about algorithms. They're demonstrating how an algorithm works. As you heard Rich Higgins make reference to a moment ago, they got to a point on election night where they realized all of the vote flipping they'd already done, all the manipulation of the early vote tabulation and the stored early votes was not enough to overcome the huge turnout for Trump on election day. So as they're announcing the outcome, they realize, shoot, Trump is winning. All 6 states stopped counting almost exactly the same time and then drop, what they're calling drop drop in hundreds of thousands of votes suddenly and magically added almost in a huge number. In fact, it was that little clip we played earlier of President Trump. He's showing where that happened. I think it was Georgia. He was showing, wherever he was showing, how all of a sudden this one huge spike goes up because they dropped a whole bunch of votes at that same, all at one time, all for Biden. And then once they get to the ratio, they're trying to convince the American people a plausible ratio of victory for Biden. This is what they're trying to do with the algorithm. They get to the plausible ratio, then all other outcomes they present for every other batch is reported to be retaining that same ratio. That little clip you just saw, you can go to our website, americacanwetalk.org, and on the homepage under shows, drop-down list of links, I put a link to that video. It is a visual to help get the idea of what it means to use an algorithm to switch votes around to be sure that the candidate that they want to win would win, even though in reality, as everyone in America has figured out, President Trump won re-election by a landslide. That is what happened. And I think the left just had no earthly idea how stridently the Trump supporters, the Trump's lawyers, Rudy Giuliani, and then also the wonderful Sidney Powell working outside of the Trump team, working on her own. The left had no idea how engaged and determined the opposition was going to be, that the Trump supporters are going to be, and refusing to just submit and surrender to election fraud.